Everybody's favorite Odd Couple is back. And they are actually playing it up as the Odd Couple this time. Venom! Let there be carnage. Sorry, let there be carnage. Because, I feel like that's what I should tell you to give you an idea of what kind of movie this is. Every single time somebody says the word carnage, even aside from when a character is identified by that name, just the word gets said, there's always a pause before they say Carnage. That's the kind of movie this is. So, if you liked the first Venom, I think you will enjoy this. I liked the first Venom. I enjoyed this. Doesn't mean I think it's a good movie. I didn't really think Venom was a good movie. I don't really think this is a good movie. I still have fun with it, though. I think in a lot of ways, the thing is, I'm kinder to this franchise, and I think part of the reason for that might be because I did used to love Venom. And I loved Venom when I was 11, 12 years old. So, the thing is, my nostalgia for the character kind of puts me back into the mindset of an 11 or 12-year-old in the 90s. And to the 11 or 12-year-old in me with a 90s mindset, this hits it. Does that make it a good movie? No. No, absolutely not. This thing is... It is very 90s. In terms of its pace and the way it moves forward. It's not interested in taking extra time to delve into characters and really expand out the plot lines and the threads. They're like, no, get to the thing. This thing is 90 minutes long. It has been cut down to the bone. It is the same mentality that led to a lot of 90s era action-y type of movies. Superheroes weren't the big thing then, but a lot of things released to theaters in the 90s were about 90, 95 minutes because you make it short, so that you have less to film, ideally, so that you're spending less money up front, and you get as many showings in a night when it first opens before people realize it's not very good. Again, I still had fun with this. Do not let that escape your mind at any point. But, that's the feel and the mentality behind it. It feels like the product of a different age, despite the fact that it has modern era, CGI all over the dang thing of varying quality, but in a way that's almost part of the charm in a bizarre way. My critical spectrum and that I view this through is not the critical lens that I place on almost anything else. So if you expect me to hold this to the same standard as most things I watch, I can't. I can't because I know it doesn't hold up. And yet I still have fun. Tom Hardy is still good as Eddie Brock in playing this hapless loser version of Eddie, and Venom just being frustrated. The guy just wants to eat brains. Eddie, just let him eat brains. No, don't go kill people. Oh, come on. They're back and forth. And I was a little bit nervous because I felt like the whole odd couple dynamic the two of them had in the first one was something that the movie kind of stumbled into. And then that was the thing that people who liked the movie liked the most about it. And going into this one, they clearly knew that, as we do have very flat out odd couple style shenanigans going on. And I worried that, when something that was funny by accident, or funny in a way that it wasn't meant to be, then tries to be in on the joke, it usually doesn't go well. No, it still worked for me here. We've also got Woody Harrelson hamming it up big time as Cletus Kassady, a.k.a. Carnage. And despite their action scenes being, whole two CGI monstrosities slamming into each other, I wasn't bored. I wasn't thrilled. I wasn't excited. They weren't amazing action scenes. But I wasn't bored, which I usually can be during pixel smashing into pixel style fights. So something was working there. But this is a very lean movie, and not in a everything's really tight and buttoned up kind of way. There are a couple of points where it feels like there's some bits missing, and something happens that, like, I can see how things got there, but I feel like there were steps that we should have seen in getting there that the movie skipped, or more likely cut out. It's a little bit spoilery to bring up my primary example of that. And obviously anyone who's seen this expects me to talk about the mid-credit sequence, which is very spoilery. So, short version, if you liked the first Venom, I think you will like this, because the same things that were good in that are good in this again. And that's kind of all there is to it. I had fun. So, getting into our first layer of spoilery stuff. So, like, my best example for what I mean by there are steps missing has to do with the climax and with Shriek, aka Frances. Because there's this moment where she says to Carnage, you know, this is too much, or this is going too far, or something like that. And I figured that the plot was going to have to go there because her sonic shriek is one of the few weaknesses these symbiotes have. Obviously, she's going to turn it on Carnage at some point. That was a duh. So, knowing that it would get there, I was expecting. But when she said that, I was like, why? What? Why? How? Huh? I don't know what it was that set her off to go like, no, things are going too far, or this is too much. Because, like, she'd seen him go full monster several times prior to that. It's not like she was seeing the full monster version of him for the first time, which would have worked for that. Whatever it was that set her off to say that, I feel like it's missing. So, like, that's my primary example of that. But there's smaller examples of it across the film. And it's just evidence that this movie wasn't designed to be 90 minutes. It was probably designed to be 2 hours, but they just cut it down. They went lean and dirty with it. And again, like, I honestly think it kind of works that way. Oh, and seriously, best use of the single F-bomb that you can get away with in a PG-13 movie that I have seen in a long time. It's awesome. It's so good. I love it. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Ah, that was great. I loved that. That's honestly probably the best moment of the movie. But there's just a lot of stuff that I enjoy, and there's these little isolated scenes that are good and effective. Do they string together seamlessly? No. Thing jumps around a fair bit. Again, it feels like mostly it's connective tissue that was cut down. But the plot is so predictable that it doesn't matter that much. Because it's going through the beats you expect. You're just not seeing all the connections. But you still knew where it was going. So first thing that is more spoilerish, talking about towards the ending. I had to look up what the hell went on with the detective, with Mulligan. When his eyes flashed. And I was like, what the hell is that? So apparently they're seeding Toxin, who is another symbiote, and one that I don't know. I've been out of reading a fair amount of comics for a while, and I know of Toxin. I know that he is a thing that exists. I know nothing about him. I'm a little bit, I'm like, you're seeding another symbiote? I mean, look, I get that for the most part, when Venom has his own stories, he is generally dealing with or tracking down or battling against other things like him, but it's gonna get old if the enemy he has to face in the next movie is another one. Then again, Toxin is a bit more of an anti-hero, so maybe that'll lend itself to something a little different. I don't know. But then there's the mid-credits scene, which we definitely need to talk about. So, first of all, before we got there, I did love the ending of Venom and Eddie on a beach. That was great. I love that. So then we see them in this hotel room, slightly run down, and Venom says he's going to share with Eddie just a glimpse of the universe-spanning hive mind that he has been a part of. And when he does that, there's a flash and suddenly Eddie is in a much nicer hotel room. And on TV is J. Jonah Jameson, the one from Spider-Man Far From Home, announcing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So what this does is this establishes a couple of things. It establishes, one, that Venom up to this point has not been taking place in anything connected to the MCU, which I think was kind of a given. But now he has. He's been pulled in, which, first of all, makes me wonder if they're going to have this factor into Spider-Man No Way Home. I wouldn't be surprised, just because the word we're hearing about all the stuff that's going to be in that. And the way Venom reacts, where he's like, that guy. My initial thought is that something about the hive mind that the symbiote comes from, something about that is dimension spanning. And Venom has some kind of awareness, some kind of understanding of the version of him that has encountered a Peter Parker before. Not that one, not Tom Holland, but a Peter Parker. Which also feels like a harsher confirmation that Tobey Maguire is going to end up showing up. Here's the thing. The only reason I'm somewhat surprised by this, given all the multiverse moves that have been going on with Marvel lately, because it fits. It really does. The only thing that surprises me about this is Marvel has been very tepid about letting Sony connect its Spider-Man spin-off stuff to the main universe, because while Marvel exerts a certain amount of creative input on Spider-Man himself, they don't with the Venom stuff or with the Morbius thing when that happens, etc., etc. And they've been very careful about that. Now, this is kind of a backdoor way for it to happen, because it does establish that all this stuff is another universe. So Marvel doesn't have to suddenly take ownership of all the stuff that's gone on in Venom up to this point, but it may give them brief, temporary access to the character, or give Sony the ability to cross them over briefly in more controlled circumstances. But it also does create a separation. But like I said, the fact that Marvel is kind of letting Sony do that is the only thing that's surprising. Setting the corporate entities aside, this actually isn't surprising at all, because there's more and more and more and more multiversal moves happening with Marvel, from Loki to What If to we're going to have Quantum Mania with the next Ant-Man, to that first trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. So many things are pointing to true multiversal shenanigans. And this is just us seeing a fuller and fuller extent of how far they plan to take this. Which is pretty far, as it turns out. So, yeah. That is Venom. Let There Be Carnage. I'll be curious to see what else they do with the character in future. I'll be curious to see where he shows up next, because they're going to do something with him before his own movie. But we'll see. I'm normally not a big fan of multiverse stuff, but the level of commitment that Marvel is showing to this idea, at least right now, has me intrigued. I won't lie. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I got a Patreon, and that, my friends, is how I pay my bills and keep this whole operation up and running. But if you don't want to help out there, like, share, subscribe, help me out as well. But if you don't want to do that, it's okay. Take a relaxed attitude around here so you can just come on back next time we need a break. This video wouldn't have been possible without the support of my patrons, and I want to give special thanks to Jared Boyce, MJ, The Doctor, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Kaylin Schwartz, Edelon, Robin Moore, Ross Schultz, and Shayla Gorley. Thanks so much.